Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Okay, thank you for the heads up on that. You should be able to hear me now. Can anybody confirm that you're now able to hear me? Great. Okay. So thank you for that. Appreciate it. So all we did at the beginning here was just we talked about California Capital and its importance to the community and the importance of completing the forms for the evaluation on our course site and sending those into Sophia. And most of you that I see, all the names here have been here before. So you know about the great business loans, business assistance programs, and of course the workshops and events. So I volunteer my time, but California Capital does get some benefit from the SBA if you complete those forms and fill them in. So I'd really appreciate it if you do that. So tonight we're going to be talking about artificial intelligence, and we're keeping it really non-mathematical. So a lot of people hear the term artificial intelligence, machine learning, business analytics, predictive analytics, business intelligence, and they get concerned that it might take an engineering degree or some advanced statistical knowledge and things like that to use these types of tools, and or a lot of money. But fortunately, that's not the case. So there are a lot of things that we can do using AI in our WordPress worlds. And today we're going to go through a lot of those options. And then we're also going to talk about some other resources. So for most of the first part of the class, we'll be going through these different types of plugins and talking about what they can do and how they can really lighten your workload. And then the second half of the class, after we do our 6 or 7:30 break, we're going to go through some examples of things outside of WordPress that you can still take advantage of and use free services and take advantage of a lot of programming and things that data scientists have done, so you don't have to do them yourself. And all you have to do is be able to basically upload some data if you have data to analyze, or just do a little bit of training on a chatbot that you could then place into a website. And I'll keep an eye on questions as we go. I'm not seeing any at the moment, but it looks like I'm seeing a hand up. All right, let me check on that. Okay, we're good. All right, so these are the types of things we're going to go over tonight. And this worksheet will be on our class page, on our resources page. So when you come in here again to where the session recordings are, right now we have 1 through 6 posted. And I included, you may recall, we talked about the website monetization options and link spreadsheet. So that's available now. And then last week we did social media integration. So early on we talked about the structure of a site, how you basically set it up, add the features that you want, then theme design, making it look nice, then how to make money with the site. So once you have it looking nice, you want to bring people to the site and have them take an action so that you're monetizing that in some way. And then how to do the outreach part to draw the people to your site. And tonight we're going to talk about how you can learn a lot about different data sets that you might have and how you can use artificial intelligence to help you advance your mission here. So suppose, for example, you do something like we looked at last week and you're putting something out to 50 or 75 social media accounts. How do you possibly keep up with that, especially if you're a small firm and you don't have a lot of people dedicated to social media? So we're going to talk about how you can do some of that tonight using artificial intelligence and machine learning and a lot of free resources. So this will be the next video that gets added will be tonight's recording, and then this spreadsheet that we're going through tonight will be there available as well. And I went through the WordPress plugins. There were a lot of others that I didn't list because they were a bit older. They didn't look like they'd been updated in a while. And it was starting to become too redundant in terms of we've already have a lot of them that represent different types of features and functions that are available. So to keep things a little bit organized, I categorized them. I should put category there. And to different sections. The first one here is advertising, but it's also really about making some money through advertising too. So you could call it advertising or monetization. And then we have several that are in communications, and those are areas where you're interacting with people who are visiting your website, and you have an AI or a bot doing that type of thing for you. And then the other is that you've got content filtering. So this will overall look at the types of things that your guests seem to like on your website and then steer them towards more of that type of content to keep their attention. Content optimization, same type of thing, but it's all about getting the right content in and feeding the right content to each of your guests. E-commerce optimization. So anybody who's selling things on a website would want to do something like Amazon does, where you notice that when you're looking at different types of products, they'll push up, show you what other people have bought, or they'll put things up there that they think you might also like. Security, which is a big area for artificial intelligence now. Frequently, AIs can find patterns and detect security issues far faster than a human with their, regulating or watching monitors. And controlling spam, and then search engine optimization, which, as we've talked about, is pretty important and overall a great organic way to get your website to the top of search results without needing to pay for ads. And when we talk about ads up here, it's not about you paying for ads, it's about you getting paid for ads. So, of course, you need to draw traffic to your website for that to happen. And then once you do, you need to be able to take care of that traffic and manage it well. The non-WordPress resources that we'll talk about include Bot Libre or Bot Libra, depending on how you want to pronounce it. And that is a system where you can go in and create your own free chatbots that can then be embedded in your website. Then we'll talk about Salesforce Einstein. Salesforce Einstein is an online artificial intelligence platform that also uses machine learning, and it can analyze data sets for you. So you don't have to know the data science yourself. You can take a set of data, and when we're talking data, as simple as a spreadsheet. So if you have an Excel spreadsheet with your sales on it, or any kind of customer demographics, or anything else that you want to track or learn something about, excuse me, you can, from any Excel spreadsheet or even an open source, Open Office Libre spreadsheet, you can save it as a CSV file. So you just do File, Save As. In fact, just as an example, if I were going to save this Google Doc, I can download it as a CSV file. Okay, that's comma separated values. That's the standard format that databases tend to work with. So if you can download anything in a CSV format or save it as in a CSV format, then it's in the format that it usually needs to be in to be uploaded into any database. And there are different types of ways of separating things that still often work, but CSV tends to be the standard. So if you have a data set with your sales, let's say you have a restaurant and you track all of your food use, your food cost and the items that you buy, your inventory, and you also track weather, which you should if you have a restaurant. It definitely has a correlation on sales. You track different elements of the weather, say, like whether or not it rained and how hot it was and that sort of thing. And you have all of that in a spreadsheet, then you can upload that into one of these systems that we'll be talking about. Then it'll analyze it for you. Then you might find that on a rainy day, you sell a lot more of a certain type of food. Or when the temperature goes above a certain degree, you sell a certain amount of food. And then you could even go further and say, well, if that's the case, then I want my automated inventory system to tie into the weather forecast. And if it knows what the weather's likely to be, it'll adjust my ordering for my next couple of weeks. And so that's just a brief example of how you could use something like this. So whenever you have a data set like that, you'd be able to upload it into one of these systems, and then it'll create a report for you showing you what all is in there and what type of correlations it finds. So I'll show you some examples of that. Excuse me. All right, so somebody said that I cut off for a couple of sentences in the function category. Oh, a couple of sentences in the function category cut off. Will they be able to be fully seen when you post it? That's just because it's an overlap here. So some of these rows have information in them. So say, for example, this one has a secondary comment or something along those lines. But you'll notice, like where this cuts off, if I click here, you can see the entire text sentence here. And you can also do things like text wrapping inside the cell. But I probably won't do that because I like to keep them basically the same height. But that's all you need to do. So any place where it looks like the text is cut off, here, for example, if you click that cell, you can look up in the window and see what the full content is. And if you wanted to, you can even just do something like this and roll it over pretty far. But I was trying to get a lot in here. Okay, so you can read through if you're looking for something later and you want to see what might be a good fit. Feel free to read through these quickly and get a general idea. But you can also go here and click any of these links. Then that'll take you to the pages that we're going to go through. All right, so let's see here. Got another comment. Optimist Price, will that be useful for pricing professional services as well? I don't know. I haven't looked deeply enough into that to know if it would work with something like that. But certainly be worth exploring. And as I recall, you have a bit of a background in this too, I think. You could take a look at that too and let me know what you find. But I'll take a look at it. The things I've seen in here are, one at least is tied to WooCommerce, and I haven't looked at Optimist Price to see if it would work with pricing services. So that's a good question. Sorry, I don't have a more thorough answer. All right, so let's start with Google AdSense, easy Google AdSense. So by the way, Google's also changing some of its names. Like I saw today that Google AdWords is going to be changing the name to Google Ads. I don't know why they would do something so that would make so much common sense, but anyway, they are. So what Google AdSense does is it automatically populates the ads on your website based on what it thinks people would want to see. So improved monetization method. So it uses machine learning, and let me blow this screen up a bit. I know people, I have a pretty big screen, so sometimes things can look small on your end. Okay, so what is Google AdSense Auto Ads? An improved monetization method that uses machine learning to make smart ad placement on your website. When it's enabled, Google will analyze your site and show ads only when it thinks they will perform well and provide a good user experience. So you can imagine what all the different benefits of that would be. But overall, you're going to increase revenue by showing ads when they'll perform well. So if you're doing something to drive a lot of traffic to your site, and Google Ads is a good way to make a little bit of revenue on the side, this might be a good tool for you to use. I see another comment here. Have you used CPQ? No, I have not. The stuff I'm doing right now isn't typically about optimizing pricing for anything or anything retail related. We're doing a lot of data analytics, but it's often related to large government data sets and trying to identify things that are going on. And yes, someone asked here, so Google sends ads to your site and you get paid for those ads. And the answer to that is yes. So you have to sign up for a Google account, a Google ad account. We covered that in the monetization class. So if you weren't quite clear on it, you can go back to that section. And I think I included some links on the website there, or on the spreadsheet that we linked as well. And yes, I don't pay Google for anything like that. There are two ways to use Google Ads. One is where you publish ads when you're the publisher, and you have advertisements that are placed by Google. And if somebody clicks on one of those, then you get a commission. Then you have the advertisers who set up a Google account, and they create the ads for their products. And they'll put in keywords, and they'll put in how much of a budget they're willing to spend and how much they're willing to pay per click and that sort of thing. And then they actually pay. So that's where the money comes in, and that's how Google makes a lot of their money, is from those types of ads. So they want people publishing those ads as well. So if you let Google publish ads on your site, if somebody clicks them, then you get a commission. And it's probably a few cents a click or something like that, depending on what's going on in that world at any moment, and the word and how much traffic you get and that sort of thing. But yes, that's how it works. Okay, so the next one we'll look at here, this is a free live chat. So we're going to be talking a lot about chatbots because there are a lot of options to use them now. And of course, anybody who pays attention to the news knows that bots are a big topic of conversation these days, specifically those that tend to come out of the Internet Research Agency in Russia. But that's not all they're used for. I mean, a lot of people are doing things where they're, trying to stir up controversy or just doing unethical things overall with bots, and there are ways to abuse them. It's like anything else, and it's new technology that often gets abused when it first comes out. So I remember when, I guess I'm showing my age here, but I remember when fax machines became prevalent, and suddenly everybody's spamming everybody else through fax machines, and finally that seemed to curtail. And then it was email, and we're still getting spam through email. So people figure out a fast way to kind of automate something, and then they just tend to abuse it. And that's what people have done with chatbots and other bots, like hack bots, where they just kind of turn them on, set them loose, and let them do their thing without anybody needing to do it. And it just amplifies the amount of damage or turmoil they can cause. But they can also be used for a lot of positive things like customer service. And that's what we're talking about here. So if you can put a chatbot onto, let's say, those 50 social media platforms that we talked about last week, then you have a lot of people responding and commenting on those platforms. You want to be able to get back to them and engage a little bit or you're going to look like you're either neglectful or just putting ads out there. It's not going to go well with the public. So you can create bots that can do a lot of that work for you, and you train them. And I have a video here. I don't think this one's going to show, but I'll show you one in a moment, an actual demo. So you can see here what it does. Get 24/7 automated live chat support for positive customer experience around the clock. Add shortcuts to your live agents to provide quick responses with ease. Here's Android and iOS mobile apps. And everything I show you has tonight, I believe, has a free version. So there might be, like most things, where you can get a basic version for free, and then if you pay more, you'll get additional features or additional resources. This gives you some idea of the kind of screenshots and data that you can get. Here's their question here: is it free? So yes, completely free with one live agent. So there you go. You pay a subscription fee if you want more. It simply learns from conversations as you engage with your customers and builds a knowledge base to start delivering the most relevant answers automatically. And there are ways you train it too. And we'll talk about that a little bit before this evening's over. And then how can you sign up? So you can, it's I guess one click, that's supposed to say, but it makes it pretty simple. And there are a lot of different options with this. So don't just jump into one maybe until you've checked them out a little bit. Here, for example, is another one that works with IBM's Watson. So Watson, I'm sure most of you have probably heard of. It's one of the more famous AIs, and it's it's kind of came after Deep Blue, the first chess champion, and IBM Watson just recently has won some competitions as well. So it's a pretty powerful platform. It's one that is now supposedly on a path to figuring out cures for different cancers. One of the stories I've heard about IBM Watson is they took it into a cancer facility down in either North or South Carolina. And a lot of the medical people on staff there were very, didn't think it was going to go very well or that it could do very much. And apparently Watson read all the books that it takes to get through medical school in like a week or something like that. And when he first came in, or Watson first was engaged, there was a staff of more than 100 medical specialists, doctors who specialize in cancer, and they were coming up with possible treatments for rare or difficult cases together. And Watson was coming up with 40 or 50% of what they were coming up with. And within a short period of time, Watson is now coming up with more options faster than they can, and as a team. And so that's the type of power that exists within AI. But most people think, well, they've got millions and millions of dollars to put into that type of research. How could Watson or something that powerful ever be used by or help me? Well, here's an example of how it can. So this is an IBM Watson assistant, and it's the same type of thing. So it's a bot that you can use to do customer service. You can use user account data such as a chatbot dialogue, easy VoIP, so you can contact a real person or contact a real person if they wish. That's just a plugin that goes right into a WordPress site. Then you can control everything right from your plugin settings. And here's some examples and installation instructions and all of that. And IBM Watson Assistant is open source, so you can see what all it does. And you can get a free light account. So that's where, let me see if it talks about that here. Yeah, if you take this free course, you can get up to $1,200 in cloud usage credit. But you can also get a light account for free that will allow you to use this tool. And I have that on the website here. There's a link for where to sign up for a free account. And I also have another link to sign up with another free account for Salesforce Einstein. So I'll show you those before the end of the session today. Here's another one, Web Assistant, AI Chatbot. So you can see there are a lot of different options here. And I'll show you just an example of how something like that might work. We don't have time to get into a lot of detail, but you'll see something that looks like this momentarily. So if I come here to a live demo, you can see here, what can I do for you today? And let me refresh that page because I think it's, yeah, so you can see it's popping up. How can I help you today? And I can put checking out your page. Can you tell me more? Well, I hit something wrong there, but you can see what it's looking for. Can you tell me more? How do I create a bot? Oops, I've got a bunch of panels popping up in my way here. So I missed what it said. Oh, I see. It looks like it's saying sign up now, start your group business today. So I saw that it popped up a paragraph or some text content before it went to this window, but you get the idea. So this is the type of thing where you can tell it what you want it to say, or it can learn from your dialogues and find answers. And basically, it's looking through a database that you create or train to know what the likely answer is or where to point people. So, for example, one that I'm working on right now, not through any of these that I'm showing you, we're coding it, but it's going to answer questions from my clients about where people in their area can recycle different products. So if somebody comes onto the website, it can pop up and say, how can I help you today? Especially if they go to the page where we have different locations for different materials. So if they go to that page, a bot could pop up and say, hello, I'm here to help. Can you tell me what you'd like to recycle today? And if somebody types in, number 3 plastics or compostable bioware, whatever it might be, bottles, cans, then it should be able to pull those keywords and give an answer and tell it where to go recycle those items based on their location. Here's another one. This one replies by email. So you can subscribe to comments. Suppose you put a post up and you're looking for comments, or you have it open to comments and people are posting, then you can reply to those comments by email automatically. And you can read all about the details here to see how it works. There are far too many details to go into all of these. And as I've said before, what I try to do in these classes is expose you to all the things that are available and give you a path to get there, so that it's a pretty easy thing to do once you know what you want to do. But a big part of it is just knowing what's available. Kindred posts. So now we're into, you can see we covered the communications parts, and now we're going into content filtering. So as you can see here, it uses artificial intelligence to gain knowledge about behavior of the users and suggest content based on their interests. So that's what this does. So it looks like this one's going away, though. I just saw here, will no longer be maintained after WordPress version 4.8, but would love to see the product plugin live on and improved upon. So one of the cool things about the open source world is that it's all about really trying to advance society and advance science and technology, more than just trying to create something proprietary that can make as much money as you possibly can on. So here we have somebody who developed this, but for one reason or another no longer has time to maintain it, and they're willing to hand it off to any other developer that wants to keep up the code. So cool thing. Sorry, too bad that they're going away, but there'll be plenty more to fill the gaps and a lot more coming on. This one is primal for WordPress. So again, you want to engage your readership on a whole new level, provide highly relevant news, videos, information from across the web tailored for a specific individual interest. So this one is a patented AI, and it brings information in tailored to each page that you create. So if you are working on pages around financial news or environmental news or manufacturing, whatever it might be, it helps you source content and populate your pages with that type of content. Now, we already saw how to do that ourselves with the tools that I showed you last week. With those, the different types of feeds that you can bring in to populate your site, we'll also do that. You just need to have the right filters in place. Here's again related posts for WordPress by Biblio. So same type of thing where it's going to pull up information that thinks it will keep your users interested. So if you have say a e-commerce website and somebody starts suddenly looking through a lot of cameras or say outdoor hiking equipment, it's going to start showing more hiking equipment that this person might like and not start putting up children's dolls or something like that as pop-up ads. So it can follow, and remember, WooCommerce products are basically WordPress posts with a product kind of template to it. So that's what this does, and it'll help you keep anybody coming to your site looking for specific things, finding what they're looking for. Here again, contextually recommends, so same type of thing. Build loyal audience through engagement tools to keep readers reading. So it does far more than just related post recommendations. Gets them to explore your site by identifying your evergreen posts, so things that never go out of date and also tend to get a lot of activity, I guess is what they mean by that. And this does that same kind of thing. So you can install this on your site and help it optimize, including videos. So anything that you're working on, it will help with in terms of the context. This one is elevated comments. So if you've ever, say, visited Reddit, for example, and it automatically puts the things that get the most traction about on the website, what people seem to be looking at and talking about, the comment thread that started getting everybody active. It can do that with your own website. So a lot of WordPress sites have articles or comments posted, and you might get one that's really, really active, but it's buried down deep. This one will elevate them up to the top and help get you to where you want to be with your audience. This one is content curation. So it's the same type of thing as we talked about last week, but they're saying they use machine learning relevance engine to train my curator with simple up or down votes for articles. And so last week when we talked about feeding in content, it was about putting in specific words to filter categories. What this one does is lets you just look at the articles and you give it a thumbs up or thumbs down, and it's starting to train on what you like and what you don't like, and it'll figure out for you what it thinks you're going to like or not like. So here you can customize your RSS, Twitter, and Google Alert services as we used last week or demonstrated last week. In this case, it'll customize those for you using machine learning. And I thought I saw a price with this one. Let's see. Okay, so it lets you curate one topic for free, but you'll need an API to access the cloud services. And if you do a lot of different topics, it's a pricing plan with a 30-day trial. So I haven't looked into how much that costs, but I think when you get the idea of how some of these things work, you'll figure out that you can also do them yourself with different tools that are available for free. This one is AI-powered search engine optimization. So here we're talking about, again, using artificial intelligence to analyze your site and figure out what you should change and do differently to help get your search engine optimization off the ground. So if you think about a combination of things like we looked at last week, where I showed an example of a site that we haven't touched, but it now comes up number 2 under its subject matter. And we have all the content being automatically fed into the system. And then from there, it creates the newsletter and it populates the website. And now it's coming up very high on search engine optimization, and it's getting a lot of traffic without anybody having to do anything. So now imagine we put the Google ads into the system, and Google starts populating that, and people are clicking on it. We've now got a revenue generating machine that's all basically AI powered. So you have AI sourcing the content, AI providing the content and providing the most relevant content. You have AI producing the right ads that are relevant to the content, and all of it's happening fully automatically without you ever needing to log in for anything. And then if people comment, you've got bots to help with that. So I'm I guess being a little rhetorical. I don't think anybody should really just launch something and then never pay attention to it. But you get the idea. It's about using artificial intelligence, machine learning, whatever technologies are available, especially those that are available for free, to help you achieve your goals. And if your goals are related to monetary goals, then that's what we're talking about. Here's another one, Watson finds. So analyzes content to provide insights about the emotions your audience may perceive as they read it. That might sound like something you've never even thought about before, but it's huge. And Facebook's been doing a lot of research in it. My daughter has been doing a lot of research in it. She's just about finished with her PhD in human-computer interaction, and she's focused on emotions. And emotions are drivers of action. So anybody who's spent time in marketing in a professional capacity or sales training understands the psychology of sales. It's almost all based on psychology and drive. And so the emotions that are created during a sales process, whether it's interactive with a human or online, are pretty critical to the outcomes. So imagine if you now have language in your site that creates a negative emotion and you don't realize it. You don't want to do that unless maybe you're selling therapy services and you want people to feel sad while they're looking at your page. And whatever you want them to do, you want it to be something you control. And so Facebook did a thing where and this was before everybody gets upset, it's been talked about, and a lot of psychologists and others have said that it's completely unethical for them to have done this. And as I understand it, they're not doing it anymore. So a lot of people were unhappy when they heard about this situation. But what Facebook did was they did an experiment where they fed negative news stories into people's feeds more frequently than usual. And in others' feeds, they put positive news stories. And they wanted to measure the responsiveness and see what people engage with more and how it affects whether or not they visit Facebook. So they were driving people's emotions in a specific direction for a scientific study on their end to gather data on users. The people were obviously pretty unhappy, but Facebook recognizes the importance of emotions when people are interacting with a website or anything with a computer or other people. And so you should pay attention to that as well. If you want people to feel happy, you should know that the language that you're putting in creates that kind of emotion. And so that's what Watson finds does. It allows you to analyze the content within your website and figure out what types of emotions it's likely to elicit in people who are visiting your site. And again, here there's plenty more information to find if you want to look into that further and see how it might be useful to you. This one's automatic alternative text. So imagine, and I've talked to people about this a lot when we talked about search engine optimization and outreach, and when we talked about theme design for accessibility issues. So there are a lot of people out there who use screen readers, and screen readers will look at an image and then read the alt text. So or scan an image, I guess I should say. So they'll scan an image and they read that alt text to the person who might be visually impaired. And imagine, though, if you've got a site up that has hundreds or thousands of images in it. Well, what this will do is it uses Microsoft's Cognitive Services Computer Vision API, and it'll analyze their pictures and then automatically add alt text to them. So you don't have to go through one at a time and figure out how to do that. And so if you want to become compliant with the ADA type codes, it's not specifically called that, but we covered that in the theme design course, and we have information on our website for additional resources. This is one that can help you get your images into compliance. And then the other thing it helps with is search engine optimization. There have been so many websites that, again, help people with, and when I look at the names of their images in the library, it's the camera file name, or some name that has nothing to do with anything that would make sense to a person reading it. So, it might be a serial number of a photo from a camera. something like that. So when Google crawls the site, that's absolutely meaningless. So you want to rename those files to represent what's on the page that where you're showing them, or what's in the picture in the image, so that it helps with search engine optimization as well. And that's what this does automatically using a Microsoft tool. This one is Google Language Translator. A lot of you might already be familiar with this. It lets you translate any web page. If you go into a web page, or you get an email even that is in a foreign language, you might see this pop up and ask if you want to translate. Well, what this does is translates your whole website for anybody who visits. I've had mixed results with this. What I would do, if you're really serious about having your website in a different language, you might start with this as a temporary tool, but then have a native speaker read over it and make sure that it's correct, because it does make mistakes. And it's gotten a lot better over the years, but still, I would, if you're doing a professional website and it's going to be read in China and Spain and the Middle East and throughout South America, etc., I would have a native speaker go through and read the text and make sure that it makes sense. But this is what I've used on a lot of different sites. You can choose the languages. So here it's got all of these listed, as you can see. And you can pick which languages that you'd like to have available, and then display them either as a language in a drop-down or as a flag representing the nation. So if you have a website, and it even flips from right to left. So obviously in our culture in the United States, we read from left to right. In some cultures, they read from right to left. So if you have a website and you include Google Translator, if you switch to right to left, to a different language that's right to left, it'll flip your whole site. It's pretty cool. I recommend experimenting with that, and then it just gives you an option to put it into any widget position you want. And then people can come in and see if that's, blow that up a little bit. I don't know if we'll keep the clarity though. I guess not. But they can come in and either choose the flag, or they can drop down and select the language, and it'll translate your entire website. All right, now it's too big to read. Here we go. So this one is targeted promotions, dynamic sales optimization. This is Darwin Pricing, and it's the integration between Darwin Pricing and the WooCommerce plugin. So this is related to optimizing pricing and figuring out what's going to work with people. Let's see. I haven't read through all of these details, but I'll leave that to you if you're interested in looking at it. Here's geo-targeting. Looks like it's got a lot of different options in here that you can configure. And then, of course, it gives you the instructions. And here it talks about how to get an account. And there's a free account, but I don't know what types of services that provides on the free version. This one, again, is recommendations. So showing them content that they like, using state-of-the-art machine learning algorithms to run our secure cloud infrastructure. So the nice thing about it being in the cloud is it doesn't slow the site down because it's not being processed on the same server. And it's also WooCommerce and WPML multilingual compatible. So it works with everything, and you can get beta access here. Optimist Price, same type of thing. So it's trying to give machine learning capabilities to pricing managers. So if you've got dynamic pricing, an example of that came out in the news not too long ago. I shouldn't say that. Things kind of crunch in terms of time in my mind. But a story that was made it into the papers was if you were going to different types of hotel booking sites or flight booking sites, that it was charging people more if they accessed them through an Apple Mac than if they accessed them through a PC. And it turns out that AI or whatever they're using to model their pricing figured out that people who use Macs tend to be willing to pay more than people who use PCs. So it started increasing pricing for anybody who logged in with a Mac. And that's one example of how that type of thing can be used. But it can also be based on, what's going on in a particular region of the country. So you might notice if you go into Amazon, prices will change quite a bit based on where you're coming in from. And one way you can experiment with that is if you go in through Tor and log in, or don't even log in, just go in through Tor so that it thinks you're or through a VPN, like I showed you Norton in the security class, where you can choose your location. And if you go to Amazon from an IP address that appears to be in different locations, you'll see price changes based on that. A lot of strange things seem to be happening with Amazon pricing. I'm paying more attention to that and trying to figure out how they're doing everything. So anyway, there's another one. This one is Marketeer. Let me get that down to where people can see. So this one is Marketeer is also a platform that you would sign up for. So you can connect Marketeer to your website, Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, mail, and this one is also a communication tool. So it'll get back to people through social media and help you optimize if you're doing any kind of retail or selling products online. And gives you analytics, support in 8 languages. I don't know what the pricing is on it, on this one, so you might want to look into that. But again, most of them have a free basic version. Here, just sign up here for a Marketeer account. What does Marketeer cost? See our pricing plan here. That's not a good sign when the pricing page comes up as a 404. So anyway, those are the types of things you want to look at before you start using something, especially if you're going to be using it a lot and need to rely on customer service. Here we have automated personalized notifications. So again, automatic sales generator, and it works with WooCommerce. So it's a push messaging platform that'll retarget people who visited your site and try to come back and get them to re-engage. So it's a form free with high opt-in rates, and it's probably something like with Amazon, they've got the thing called, I don't remember the name of it now, but you put a little tool in your browser and it'll notify you automatically if the price of anything in your Amazon basket or on one of your lists changes. So it's probably something along those lines. And here, this is malware. So Kutera web malware scanner uses artificial intelligence to go through and scan your site and try to figure out if there's anything going on there that shouldn't be. And that's what that does. And this is free also. So that's that pretty much covers the plugins. And one more, a Kismet. This one comes standard standard in all WordPress installations, and it's a spam control tool. You can see what it does. It's not just looking at your site when it's trying to figure out if there's spam coming in. It's analyzing things all over the place and then figuring out whether or not it's likely to be spam. So if a visitor submits comments to your blog, the blog runs each comment through a Kismet, and then a Kismet tells your blog whether or not it's ham or spam. And so it'll filter out quite a bit and keep you from being inundated if you've got a blog that's open up to people making comments. All right, so this is a natural point to break because of the stuff we're going to be covering in the second part of the class. So I'll check here for more questions, and if we don't have any, then we'll take a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back, and in the second part of the class, we'll be talking about things outside of WordPress that are useful and the different types of things you can do with them. And I've got a couple brief videos to show, and we're going to be looking at Bot Libre, Salesforce Einstein, IBM Cloud Account, and well, at least peruse AWS and Google Cloud to show you some of the other tools that are available if you're interested in more. And there are a lot of free courses. So anybody who's really interested in learning more about this stuff and going a lot deeper is welcome to do that through a lot of different platforms. So with that, I've got on my phone here 7:20. So we'll go ahead and take a 5 and be back at 7:25. We'll talk to you soon. All right, welcome back, everybody. So, in the first part of the session, we talked about WordPress and specific applications that can be done in WordPress and using tools that are pre-built. But now I'd like to step back a minute and just talk overall about data science, and that's what AI really boils down to in a lot of ways. AI could be called a subset of data science. It's just studying a lot of different data points and looking for correlations between those points. So there are a lot of different ways that you can do it. This type of thing's been being done for a long time uh, when you're just basically forecasting. So there are different ways to break this down, and this poster does a pretty good job of it. So I thought I'd give a quick overview of this and talk about what these things are and what's different about things that are going on today. Uh, but this is a very broad overview, and it's nothing you really need to learn, but it's helpful to get a feel for what types of things are being used and what they're being used for. And that'll give you an idea of what we're talking about in the big picture. So data analysis has been around forever, since people started counting. They're trying to figure out the right decisions to make. So if you're doing cost accounting inside a business environment, you want to figure out the costs of everything that you do. You can assign costs to things that are related to machines, and there's different types of costs, and so there's time, and then there's waiting, and there's things like that can become pretty sophisticated. So you overall want to optimize your operation based on cost accounting to optimize revenue. And in the long term, it's important too. So you can't use cost accounting, but cost accounting is a good way to do a financial analysis and make sense of your financial data. So you collect these large data sets, and when they talk here about pre-processing, it's about setting up the data so that it can be analyzed well. And then you analyze the data and you look for your metrics, your KPIs, create reports and dashboards that help people understand things. And these are the different areas where you can use something like that. So basic customer data, historical stock price data, social media, financial trading data. And then when you get up into business intelligence, that's where you're looking for analysis and trying to figure out things like price optimization and inventory management. Here you're getting into predictive analytics, so that's more of forecasting what's likely to happen in the future, and what's if you're looking at a trend, or even correlations between two different things. And that's where you're talking about regression. So you can do logistic regression analysis, combinatorial optimization, time series, a lot of different ways that you can analyze data there. And that can be used for user experience, sales forecasting. And then here's using machine learning. So you can have something use what's called reinforcement learning, where it'll run an algorithm that goes through and basically self-corrects or self-changes to make it perform the way you want it to. And that can be used for things like fraud detection, client retention. But you don't really need to get into any of this stuff down here for what we're talking about. Though if you are interested, the two things I'd recommend learning if you want to just learn a couple of programming languages is R and Python. Just between those two, you can pretty much have down what you need to have down to do some basic data analysis. But you really don't need to. So I don't want to scare people, but I would be negligent if I didn't at least address these things. And I'm not sure what the source of this PDF is. If I can find that source and make sure that it's okay to post, then I'll add that to our client resources, our student resources page on the website. But I don't know where it came from, and I don't want to just copy somebody's stuff. So I'll need to explore that further. But more importantly is the stuff that I'm going to show you now, because that'll allow you to use some far more powerful tools to get some things done. So for the second half of the class, we're going to be talking about things that are outside of WordPress. Let's start here. Oh, let me close it. Sorry about that. Sometimes things just pop up there and you can't control it. Those darn bots. This is Bot Libre. So Bot Libre is free, open artificial intelligence for everyone. And as you can see, it uses artificial intelligence engine, an app, a software developer kit, website, and you can put it wherever you want. You can do a lot with the code if you want to, or you can use it for some of these standard capabilities without any coding at all. So there are different places where you can see it live and get a demo. And I have one set up here. You can see their help bot popped up. So you'd think they would have a help bot. You can see here you can create Twitter bots, Facebook bots, and yes, this is what drove a lot of propaganda during the election, were exactly these types of things. Email, IRC, internet chat, internet relay chat, all these different types of platforms that you can use to create bots that function. Offline desk version for PC and Mac. So it's all available here, all open source. And I'm going to play a little video for you here that is a demo video. And just to repeat, for anybody who hasn't heard it before, I'm not endorsing anything. So if I happen to show a video, like in a little while, I'm going to be showing a Salesforce video. But that doesn't mean I'm endorsing Salesforce. They just happen to have a video that's interesting to show here. But first, let's start with the bot demo, how to create your own chatbot. All right, so what you just saw there was an example of a bot creating a bot. And all that did was create the bot, and then you can type in some different things, the ways you want it to respond. And that was just a real brief example, obviously. But then it provided a script that you could embed into your website. So you just copy that script, paste it into your website, and then you can, from there, it'll start functioning. And so you can train it the way you want it to be trained, and then it'll obviously perform the way you'd like it to perform. And some of this stuff takes time, but ultimately it can save a lot of time. And Bot Libre is, again, botlibre.org. It's on our spreadsheet. So from there you can create your own bots and do whatever you like with them. Though you might want to stick, at least initially, to some of the bots that are built as WordPress plugins, if that keeps things simpler for you. So now we're going to talk about Salesforce Einstein. And I'm going to give you something here that I haven't seen posted anywhere. It might be, but this is a promo link that will allow you to create a free developer account on Salesforce.com. So I'm going to put this in our chat box for anybody who wants it. And it's also going to be on our spreadsheet here. So if you come back to the spreadsheet that we've posted on the resource page, you go down here to Salesforce Einstein. That's the link that I have there, and actually that's the login link for Trailhead. The Trailhead is a self-paced training tool for Salesforce. So you can sign up for a Trailhead account, and it'll provide free training on anything that you want to do. Now, when you sign up, again, it's I'm sorry, I lost the link there somehow. Here we go. So when you go to sign up, don't worry about this role. It's more of them gathering marketing information themselves on you. It doesn't change how it functions for you or what you see or anything like that. So you can come to this page and fill this out, and within a couple of steps, it's going to want you to confirm your email and that sort of thing. It's going to provide you with a free Salesforce Einstein account, and it's incredibly powerful. I'm going to show you a couple videos for that, and then we're going to come back and take a look at one of the demo accounts that I've set up and some of the things that you can do with it. So with that, we'll look at this next video. And this is a real short one. It's kind of like a commercial. That's why I wanted to emphasize that I'm not trying to endorse things here or get somebody to buy something, but it is pretty promotional. Okay, so that gave you a quick overview of Salesforce and what it can do, and it's pretty powerful. From what I understand, it's not nearly as far along as the Google Cloud and AWS platforms in terms of complexity, but it does offer quite a bit, and you can set up a free account, which is what you're looking at here. So through the link that I sent you prior, you'll be able to set up an account that looks just like this. And there are ways you can upload data, and it can be your own data set. So what it was showing in that video was what seemed to be, something for a massive company with multiple departments and several, terabyte of data to analyze and that sort of thing. But you can do the same thing with a simple spreadsheet of your sales or your customer base or your social media analytics, anything that you can put into a CSV file. And especially if it's clean, if you can export the data from something else that's a complete data set as a CSV and then import it, you're going to be in pretty good shape. So let's take a look at another one. We're going to look at another video that goes a little bit deeper into Salesforce and what it does. And then we'll come out and I'll show you what specifically we're talking about. So you can, wants me to log in here again. Yeah, I know. I just gave up my username. It's kind of a tough one to figure out. At least I have a strong password. If you really want to be cool from a security standpoint, you should use a username that's almost like a second password. So you have two passwords that really, rather than a username that's pretty easy to figure out and then a password. So you can see here there's some data sets already installed, but you can import from any of these. And we've been talking about CSV files because that's what most people are familiar with if they use Excel or any other kind of spreadsheet program. But you can also, from a WordPress website, if you can get into the back end, you can export your MySQL database and import it straight into Salesforce and get and analyze that data as well. And then, of course, you've got Hadoop. And a friend of mine created a new platform that runs MySQL on Hadoop called a Splice Machine. Pretty cool guy. We went to school together, and after college, we did our undergrad together at Carnegie Mellon. He went on to MIT for his master's and then finished at Stanford. And then he became the director of artificial intelligence for NASA's AI labs at Moffett Field. And since then has started quite a few successful companies. But one of his latest is running MySQL on Hadoop for faster processing, anywhere between 5 and 20 terabytes of data. So if any of you are looking for analyzing big data on a fast platform, let me know and I'll connect you with him. I believe he's setting up people right now for some other beta testing in different areas, so there might be some good opportunities there. So if we wanted to, let's go take a look at that second video that'll tell us more, and then we'll come back around and look more deeply into Salesforce and what it can do, including producing code for you. And then we'll talk about some other platforms that are out there as well. Okay, so again, that's also why I wanted to again disclose I have no financial affiliation with Salesforce, as some of those things are pretty promotional. But I thought he did a pretty good job of explaining it, and I didn't know how fast our load time would be here tonight, so I didn't want to walk through that myself. But it's pretty simple and easy to do, so I will show you a little bit of it. And again, though, this is where you would come to sign up for that account. It's incredibly powerful. The platform can handle up to 1,000 variables and 1 billion rows of data. So you could say that today's data science is no different than what people were doing with an abacus, 50 or 100 years ago. But think about how long it would take to process that kind of information. And with the computing power we have now, all that stuff can be done very quickly and give a lot of insight. So from a marketing platform, there is definitely some scary stuff going on. If any of you have seen Minority Report, a lot of those things can be done right now where people can track you pretty much everywhere you go through your mobile device, for example, and then pop up ads that are specific to you right in front of you. So, say your name, that kind of thing. And in fact, I heard today, it's not quite related to this, but it's where the world's going, and AI will probably drive it. Facebook applied for a patent on a device or a technique, a system that will send an inaudible sound from your television to your mobile device. It would be like a braille code in a very high frequency that you wouldn't hear, but your device would hear, and it would instruct your device to turn on ambient sound collection. So basically, Facebook from a TV commercial could turn on your phone microphone and record what's going on in the room to see possibly how you might be interacting with the television, or possibly just the noise level, so it knows if you've stepped away from the TV or come closer, that sort of thing. So gathering market analysis through your television and your own devices. And I'm sure all that will be analyzed with artificial intelligence to figure out how to optimize commercials. And again, just like we're talking about delivering content on a website that's relevant to people, it really does go both ways. So I'm a big advocate for privacy. I'm full-fledged member of the Electronic Frontier Foundation, which is kind of like the ACLU for the internet. And I believe in all that. But on the other side, what some people will say is that they want ads that are specific to them. Like I might rather see ads for things that are of interest to me than, get ads for baby diapers or something like that when I don't have any kids. And so it's all about customizing that content. The marketers want you to see something very specific, and that's worth money to them to get you to see what you might buy. And some people are fine with giving up a certain amount of freedom for that to happen because they'd rather see custom commercials. But the same thing we've been talking about using AI for on our own websites tonight to deliver specific content based on people's patterns is exactly what groups like Facebook and Google try to do for their revenue models. So again, if you want to sign up for the free Einstein account, it's right there. It'll be on our spreadsheet. Back here, you can upload a database. So if I wanted to click CSV, I could upload, this is not a CSV file. That's an example of that's a cap table. Never mind. Anyway, if I had a CSV file here, I could upload that straight into Einstein. And again, you can create a CSV file from any data spreadsheet. So even if you just have a restaurant or a small store, or you're selling things online and you have data from your sales, or if you download your Facebook Insights and want to do different things with it than Facebook Insights will let you do. If you download that data yourself, you can upload it all into here and then run the analysis on it. And then here's an example of some stories I've already created. So just as you saw in the video, I've come in and played around with some different things to see what it was and how it worked. There are a lot of different sources for data. So if you're really just interested in this or curious or like to play around, set up a free Salesforce account, and then you can go to, this is just one example, this is data.gov. A lot of researchers come in here because it's free large data sets. So you can find data sets on just about anything you might be interested in. and then you can download that data set and upload it into Einstein and run your own analysis. And who knows, maybe you'll find something that nobody else in the world has found yet in these massive data sets that are collected from data all over the world. And so once you come in here, here's an example of one. This is an auto parts distributor. So this was a data set that Facebook provided as an example. Let me see if I can, how long it would take for this to open. I don't want us to sit there like he did in the video and wait 20 minutes for it to pop up. But we can let that load and we'll come back to it and see what it shows us then. So that's one of the things that you can do. That, again, this is free. And instead of needing your own team of data scientists, if you have a small business, you can run your own analytics, and it'll create what they call stories here that are looking really at all the different correlations between different points in the data that you might not recognize yourself or very quickly. So it'll do it for you. And the other cool thing, let's say you are even a data scientist and you do consulting for companies. You can put the data into this system first, and it might be limited on what it does for you, but it'll create the R code that you can then use as a starting point and then have your data scientist customize it. Like in my case, I've got 2 people working with me that have PhDs in computer science and have been doing this stuff for a decade, and they wouldn't want to use something straight off the shelf like this and just accept those results. But if you want to shortcut the process, you can let this system create the initial R code for you, then download that R code and have your data scientist start with that as a starting point, just to drive time out of the process. Oh, here's good. This is I didn't realize I did this, but I was wishing I had. I had opened up the story before we got online, just in case we had that issue that we've had. So this is an example of what the results of that would be. So this is the auto parts distribution. And you can see here we're talking about alternators in this case. And so it'll give you all the different information on sales by part, margin when the distributor is a certain distributor. So you can compare any type of analysis you want. You can say what happened, what changed over time, why it happened, what could happen. You can change what it's related to, so what other things you want to consider. Something like that, and then run the analysis on it. And you have Salesforce's cloud platform running all that analysis for you for free. And then when it's done, if you go to share and export, let's see if that's going to be responsive here. I don't know what it's doing. It doesn't seem to want to. Okay, I'm not going to worry about that. The general idea is that you can share it. So it'll create a PowerPoint presentation with all the different information that it gives you. And you can export the R code that was created by the AI to analyze the data. So that's not bad. Some other things, if you're interested, Google has a whole developers platform where they're teaching machine learning. And it tells you what you might need to know. There are a couple prerequisites that would be good to have if you're going to get this deep, but you really don't need to. You can see over here ML concepts. You can go through some of this stuff if you just want to get the big picture and leave the coding to the math to somebody else, but it'll give you an overview. And if you want to learn it, it's definitely very doable and a very big career opportunity for anybody interested in going into the field. And this is the machine learning crash course, also free from Google. Just go to developers.google.com, and I believe I have this linked on our sheet as well. This is Google Cloud, and Google Cloud is one of the other big platforms that a lot of people are using to analyze data. So there's a free trial account here, but I don't know how much they really give you in terms of long-term free services for this. I have a Google account, but I'm not using it for any type of data analysis at this time, but it can be used. And again, this is probably beyond what anybody well, what I think most of the people in this session would be looking for, but you should still have a good idea of the big picture of what's going on and the leaders. AWS is the other big one. They do a lot of hosting. I've for years been more impressed with their Amazon Web Services, AWS, even than their retail. When I think of Amazon, this is what I think of. Netflix, I don't know if they still are, but Netflix was using Amazon to host all of their videos. So if you're ever looking for a place to store data, it's probably the least expensive out there. If you go to AWS and set up an S3 account, which is just storage, not processing, it's really, really inexpensive. That's where I back up a lot of my websites automatically. But it can also do everything else that we've been talking about tonight. But it's costly. Even if you put up a WordPress site, so you can host a WordPress site on Amazon, and if you had a really busy site and you're getting some heavy activity to the point where it's worth paying for some good scalable hosting, you can put it on Amazon, but it's about $450 a month for something that really functions well. And then it's scalable. So if I were getting 10,000 visitors a day and they're buying things, it's well worth it. But for most people in this class, it's a waste of money for a WordPress hosting. IBM Cloud Light. So just like Salesforce, what seems to happen a lot in technology is things happen at the top with the scientists and the people that figure it out. And then they realize there's this whole market of people that for which it's inaccessible. So a lot of them are in that phase now where they're trying to make this really accessible to everybody. And that's what IBM's doing here, much like Salesforce is doing. So this is from November of last year, an announcement of what they're doing here with these light accounts. So it gives you a limited set of features and resources, but it is free. So this link is also on our site, on our resource spreadsheet. Then you can come in here and sign up for a free account and use that for, well, lots of different things. And one of the things we talked about earlier when we looked at the different plugins available for WordPress was Watson Conversation. So this is where you're using natural language interface to automate interactions with your users. So the free account offers you up to 10,000 API calls per month. And that's probably enough for most of the people on this call, or on this meeting. If you have more than that, you can probably easily afford to pay for it. But you can see here what the limitations are, what you get. But it's all free, and you don't need to know how to code. So you can go in and walk right through the setup and get started, and it'll give you something that you can use to automate some of your interactions with your customers and keep your responsiveness good. And as long as you're clear about it, excuse me, from a marketing standpoint, if a customer thinks that you're trying to pretend to be a human, but knows you aren't, in other words, you don't pass the Turing test of humans, and they know you're a computer themselves, they might get a little irritated. Like I've noticed when I log in a lot of times, say on a server tech support chat because the server's down or something like that, and I don't have access to it, I need to get it back online. Though I'll get I type in something and I get the first immediate message back, and it's the same message no matter what I said every time. I know that's a chatbot of some kind auto-responding, and it's not a real person. But then other times in something like Reddit, you might see somebody that posts something and says, hey, I was at the Dave Matthews concert in Jersey in December 7th, 74. And I remember, of course, it wouldn't have been 74, but you get the point. And Reddit might pull up a set list and say, hi, I'm a bot. You might be interested in this following set list from Dave Matthews on such and such a date. And it'll give a set list for all the songs. So but it's announcing itself as a bot and saying, hey, I'm here to help. This might be cool. And that to me seems more real because it's saying I'm a bot. It's not trying to pretend to be a human, and it's still being helpful, and it can be cute and chatty, and that's all cool because I know what's going on. So that's all up to you. That depends on how you want to interact with your customers and that sort of thing. But you can see how many things here are totally free. and available, and you're able to tap into the same things that the largest companies in the world are using. So, the biggest retailers out there are using stuff like this to analyze their sales. And the biggest social media management companies are using bots to spread their word. And marketing companies are using bots to stay in close touch with their customers. Then you can do all of that too. And without paying anything for it, and without needing to know how to code, just by having access to things like this. So with your WordPress site, you can go in and you can install Watson Finds. And that's the one that helps you with emotions, which is a big thing that I know Google and a lot of others are working on right now. And there was the other Watson that we just talked about a moment ago, right here. So Watson Assistant. And you can sign up for those things through the account we just looked at. Looks like that one didn't come up at all eventually. And set up your own. And so you don't need a data scientist for the basic things if you just want to start playing with it. The important part that's not covered here, and I don't want to be remiss in this either, is it's kind of just like WordPress or with building a website. You can do all of the things that coding will let you do, the coding that was built by someone else. But with data analytics especially, it's important to understand what data is important, what data is not, which models work best for different type of data sets, being able to find flaws in the model, knowing how to test things to make sure that, like the K-fold test that was mentioned is an option with Salesforce. So I don't want to dismiss data scientists as unnecessary at all. But put it this way, the reason Salesforce works so well and is available and so user-friendly and powerful is because they have more than 120 full-time data scientists on board. So I like to leverage things when they're available for me to use, that other people put that kind of time into. That's fantastic, and it's free. And so that's why I want to make sure people know that stuff's out there and that you have access to some of the same tools that the most powerful companies in the world have access to at no cost and without any specialized skills. And then I was going to close with data.gov, but we already talked about that a little bit. If you want to come out and get some data just to play around with things, you can download data sets from just about everything you can imagine here. Here's the Food Environment Atlas, fruit and vegetable prices, transportation data set, statistical abstract of the United States. So over 1,400 tables. So I might sound pretty nerdy that I like to download data sets and just play with them, but you never know what you're going to find there. And that's what's also really cool. I mean, there are some things we should be, as a society, attentive to. I don't want to say concerned about or afraid of, but attentive to, in terms of how artificial intelligence can be abused or put to use in a way that's overall harmful to society. But there are also some amazing possibilities. It's kind of like, I don't know, any power or technology isn't good or bad in itself. It's how it's used that makes the difference. And so if we use these kinds of powers and technologies for good and to advance society and to help people, then we're in good shape. If we're ever using them to hurt people or restrict resources or, become unlimitedly wealthy at the expense of others living in mass poverty, that's bad. So, but there are some people who disagree with me on that. But anyway, so you can take different data sets in here, and you might be the first one to come up with, farm program payments are directly tied to whatever storm events database. There it is. So with all this different types of data that's available now, the big question is, what do you do with it? Where do you store it? How do you analyze it? But with the powerful computing power that we have on some of these platforms, some things can be discovered, just like Watson is now coming up with possible treatments for difficult to cure cancers. We never know when Watson's going to come up with some solution that solves part of the global hunger problem or global obesity, whatever it might be. There can be correlations found now because of the power of processing and the amount of data that were impossible just a couple decades ago. So with that, I will see if there are any other questions here. Let's see. Here's one. All these for-profit companies offer free services on data analytics. I assume your data is then included in their total overall data to use as they see fit. Well, you should always check the terms of service, but something else that you can do is have throwaway accounts if you're just using this for yourself. So let's say, for example, you create a Gmail account called IBM Cloud Light at gmail.com, and you use that as your email address and put in whatever name you want, something that isn't likely to hit marketing lists or get your attention. So you can put in whatever data you want. What I think, and it's a different model for everybody, I think in the cases of, and I have to verify this, so I'm not going to say for sure, I just suspect from the model that I see is that with things like Salesforce and IBM Cloud Light, they will probably try to market to you directly themselves. I don't know if they'll sell your data or not, but the idea is it's like a freemium. So they let you in for free and give you a taste and get you an understanding that, oh yeah, I guess I can do this. I see how it's useful, and then try to upsell you. So they'll try to get you to transfer from a free account to a paid account, and that could be part of the revenue model that's the main driver. In terms of whether or not they sell your data, I don't know. But I do know that GDPR has gone a long way towards controlling that and forcing companies to reveal what they're doing with data and give you an option to pull your data back out at any time you see fit. And that just went into effect earlier this year, and it impacts every company with a website that can be viewed in Europe, basically. And they're starting with the big ones. So I would expect that Salesforce and IBM are already compliant or will be shortly if they're not. But check the terms of service just to be safe. I know nobody reads those, but it's really a shame that they don't, and it's a shame that a lot of them say what they do. But that's the facts. And then I see maybe sell your data. So, yep, that's what we just covered. All right. Any other questions? Okay, I'm not seeing anything else come in at this time, so we'll go ahead and bring it to a close. I'll get the recording processed and converted to MP4 tonight, and we'll get it up on the website by sometime tomorrow. And then I'll also put up a link to that spreadsheet. And this time next week, we'll go through a review of what we've done through the course so far. So if you've got any questions or things you want to address from anything from setting up, oh, that's right. Okay, thank you. I just saw from somebody here, next week is a holiday. That's right. Next week's the 4th of July. So it won't be next week. It'll be the week after. And you've got the videos there to review if you like. Or, of course, feel free to attend the session with any specific questions you might have, and we'll take it from there. All right. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the 4th. Have fun. Be safe on the highways. And we'll catch you on, I guess that would be the 11th. Take care. Bye-bye.